Ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor and pleasure for me to be welcoming you to the second day of ATMA's Auto Technology Partnership Summit and Expo. This event is being organized with support of our counterpart associations from across the globe, from the Americas to Europe and Japan. We also thank SIAM and IPO Forum in India for teaming up with us for this event. While yesterday we inaugurated the event and celebrated the India-Japan Partnership Day, today we are celebrating the India-Europe Partnership Day in honor of our counterparts from Europe who have contributed in shaping our own automotive industry. It must be noted, Europe is our single largest trading partner when it comes to the auto component sector. It accounts for 31% of India's auto component exports and another similar 30% of its imports. I express my sincere gratitude in particular to our friends from the VDA, the German Association of the Automotive Industry, the SMMT, the UK Society of Motor Manufacturers and Traders, FIEV, the French Vehicle Equipment Industry Association, FKG, the Scandinavian Automotive Suppliers Association from Sweden, and the SDCM, Association of Distributors and Producers of Automotive Parts of Poland, for their partnership and, of course, helping us in our growth story, as I said. Ladies and gentlemen, as you all would know, during the pandemic, India observed one of the most severest lockdowns, a lockdown of 70 days. However, I'm extremely happy to mention, as the Indian economy has unlocked, the industry has come back very, very strongly. We have in fact been witnessing a V-shaped recovery, and it is in this backdrop that we are organizing this event, and I invite all of you to join us to be a part of our growth story. Apart from this conference, ladies and gentlemen, we also have an expo where over 45 Indian players, Indian component manufacturers, are displaying their state-of-the-art technology and products for both the conventional as also the next generation mobility solutions. I request all the people who are logged in today to visit the exhibition as well and make good use of it. Ladies and gentlemen, I now have the pleasure of inviting Mrs. Anjali Singh, the chairperson of ACMA's Pillar on Strategic Alliances, to formally deliver her welcome address. A quick introduction. Ms. Anjali Singh is the executive chairperson of the Anand Group and the Anand Executive Board. She is one of our very promising young leaders. So Anjali, the stage is yours, and may I request you to kindly deliver your welcome address. Anjali, please.
Thank you very much, Vinny, and welcome everybody. A very good afternoon, good morning, and good evening to you all, considering it is today a global conference. Guests have connected with us from different time zones, and we welcome you all. It's a great privilege for me to extend a warmest welcome to you for the Europe Day, harnessing the Indian opportunity through technical collaborations, coinciding with the first ever virtual Auto Technology Partnership Summit and Expo. Supporting our partners with us today, we have here FIEV France, FKG Sweden, SMMT UK, VDA Germany, SDCM Poland, and also via counterpart associations from Japan, USA, Canada, Brazil, Ministry of Commerce, SIAM, and the IPO Forum. At the outset, let me give a special welcome today to our chief guest, Her Excellency Mukta Datta, Ambassador of India to the Federal Republic of Germany, and Mr. Arun Goyal, Secretary, Ministry of Heavy Industries. I am also grateful to SMMT and VDA, with whom we have been working for the last 2 decades to promote partnership and collaborations between the Indian and the European auto component industry. We are working with VDA on many initiatives. One of them is ACMA CM VDA Partnership Program, an association-level project to support Indo-German cooperation. VDA is also supporting in some of our programs at ACMA Center of Excellence. Let me now take this opportunity to update you on the state of the automotive industry in India. The automotive industry in our country registered a turnover of USD 50 billion with exports of USD 14.5 billion in the financial year 1920, registering a CAGR of 8% over the 6 years. In the backdrop of the pandemic and the lockdown, the automotive industry has faced unprecedented disruptions in the first half of the fiscal year 2021. The industry, through agility, flexibility, and financial discipline, most of all, has displayed remarkable resilience and has come back with unlocking the economy and in the V-shaped recovery that Vinny already mentioned. I'm happy to mention that our Government of India has been supportive to the cause of the Indian automotive industry. India's Union Cabinet has recently approved the Production-Linked Initiative scheme for 10 sectors, of which the auto and the auto component is a prime focus one, that will be extended to USD 7.85 billion worth of incentives over the next period of 5 years. The PLI scheme aims at enabling the Indian automotive industry to become globally competitive, attract investments, create economies of scale, and enhance exports and make India an integral part of the global supply chain. Today, we are here with the objectives of promoting matchmaking between Indian automotive companies and the world, as also to encourage European auto component manufacturers to invest in India and export back to the world, taking advantage of India's manufacturing capabilities. I extend a cordial invitation to our European friends to invest and to collaborate with our Tier 1 and Tier 2 suppliers and become a part of India's growth journey. Today, we have 45 leading quality Indian auto component manufacturers displaying their capabilities and their products. ACMA will be glad to connect European small and medium enterprises with their Indian counterparts. Our friends from the global industry bodies, along with ACMA, are very proactive in taking this initiative forward. We want to further strengthen this relationship, and we have all our support to do so. As the Government of India strengthens its emission and safety regulations and connectivity in vehicles gains ground, IT and electronics connect will become sizable in vehicles. Electric mobility is also getting traction. With India's well-established strength in software and embedded statements, co-developing and manufacturing auto electronics is yet another opportunity for Indo-European cooperation. Ladies and gentlemen, with the bright prospects of several growth in the automotive industry, let me once again invite you to partner with the Indian auto component industry for our mutual benefit. Please do connect with the ACMA team should you need any assistance or information regarding the Indian automotive or component industry. We once again look forward to exploring new avenues of growth with you. Thank you very much for joining us today, and over to the ACMA team and to Vinny. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Anjali, for your welcome remarks and also setting the context of the event today. Ladies and gentlemen, I now have the pleasure of inviting our chief guest, Her Excellency Mrs. Mukta Dutt Tomar, the Ambassador of India to the Federal Republic of Germany. Since joining the Indian Foreign Service, Ms. Datta Tomar has had several diplomatic assignments, very prestigious ones, in the Indian embassies in Madrid, in Kathmandu, in Paris, and in Yangon. She's also served the permanent mission of India to the United Nations at New York. She was also the Deputy High Commissioner of India to Bangladesh and also the Consul General of India in Chicago. Without much ado, I request Mrs. Tomar to kindly deliver her address, please. Mrs. Tomar, please. Welcome again.
We are on. Yeah. Namaskar. Good morning. Secretary Goel, Mrs. Singh, Mr. Singhania, Dr. Sheel, Mr. Hawes, and participants from India and Germany, good morning. At the very outset, I would like to thank Director General ACMA, Mr. Mehta, and all of the ACMA team for inviting me to share my views on opportunities in Germany for Indian automotive companies. And I must congratulate you as well for a very comprehensive event that you are organizing. You would agree that any discussion on the automotive sector in Europe is incomplete without mentioning Germany. The automotive industry is the largest industry sector of Germany and contributes to around 20% of its total industry revenue. According to GTAI, automotive exports accounted for over 13% of German exports in 2019 and is actually the product group with the largest share of export. Domestically, the automotive sector earns revenue of over 150 billion euros and absorbs nearly 35% of the total R&D expenditure incurred by Germany. It is no accident that 18 of the world's top 100 automotive suppliers are German companies. Another interesting fact of the German automotive sector is that 85% of the companies are SMEs, and these form the backbone of the sector. Secondly, it is of importance to note that all major German auto companies have a manufacturing presence in India. Their presence has been instrumental in attracting several of the OEM suppliers to set base in India as well. As a result of the partnerships between Indian and German businesses, a town near Pune called Chakan has emerged as a leading hub for automotive manufacturing and R&D in the country. With this background, I would now like to address the opportunities that the German and European automotive industry presents for Indian companies. There are three major trends that we see in the auto sector in this region. The first trend is of digitization. Artificial intelligence is fast pervading every aspect of the auto industry. Cars are becoming smarter, and concepts like self-driving cars are expected to attain commercial feasibility in the near future. AI is not limited to just the microprocessors on the dashboards. These technologies are also being deployed in manufacturing to have cleaner and intelligent factories, referred to as Industry 4.0. These technological advancements require a strong base in IT, and our IT capabilities are second to none. German auto companies and Indian IT companies are already partnering in this realm. As an example, I would like to refer to the strategic partnership recently announced in December 2020 between Daimler and Infosys for modernizing Daimler's IT infrastructure and scaling up of its innovation. The second trend the European auto industry is experiencing is of decarbonization. You may be aware that as a part of the Green Deal reached among member states, Europe has committed itself to becoming carbon neutral by 2050. The climate ambition of the European Union will have ramifications for the transport sector. The passenger vehicle segment will have to inevitably move towards greater electric mobility. The second pillar of the decarbonization strategy is the use of hydrogen in long-distance transport vehicles. Different countries in Europe are at different stages of exploring this. Germany is perhaps the leading among them and taking steps both in terms of raising capital as well as preparing the regulatory framework for adopting a hydrogen-based strategy for its transport sector. The third trend that would affect foreign suppliers of European companies is the increasing focus on aspects of sustainability in Europe. You may be aware that Germany is in the process of promulgating a Supply Chains Act, which would make it mandatory for German companies to ensure that their suppliers follow socially and environmentally responsible practices. A similar movement is also acquiring momentum at the EU level. It is important that Indian manufacturers recognize this trend early on and prepare themselves to meet the more stringent requirements of the future. While these three trends will undoubtedly alter the existing business models of automotive companies, it will also create new opportunities for Indian businesses. The fifth India-Germany Intergovernmental Consultations, co-chaired by Prime Minister Modi and Chancellor Merkel in November 2019 in New Delhi, had recognized these opportunities and identified e-mobility, Industry 4.0, artificial intelligence, and digitization as important areas for our bilateral cooperation. These sectors have also received the necessary stimulus from government policies for promoting Make in India and other initiatives, and the performance-linked incentives announced last year, which has battery manufacturing and automotive among the 10 priority sectors. These policies complement the existing schemes like FAME 2, which provide financial incentives for reducing the cost of acquiring electric vehicles for commercial purposes, public transport, etc. These reforms and stimuli are already showing results. In January this year, there were two important announcements. First was Tesla's entry in India with an R&D center in Bangalore. In the same week, Ola announced a tie-up with the German giant Siemens for an electric two-wheeler industry 4.0 plant in Chennai. Siemens plans to provide the automation and digitization products for the plant. In the long run, and especially in the post-pandemic world, where European companies are looking to reduce their dependence on a single geography, these policies will strengthen India's position as a reliable supply chain partner. Finally, I would like to inform you that the Embassy runs a support program especially for German Mittelstand companies that wish to enter or expand in India. The program is called Make in India Mittelstand and is available to all German Mittelstand companies. And please do feel free to contact us for further information regarding this. I look forward to hearing the views of experts and entrepreneurs, and I thank you once again for this invitation to participate in these discussions. Namaste.
Thank you, Ms. Tomar, for joining us today. I think what you said is indeed very, very profound. The dominant trend today is in Europe. You talked to us about the dominant trends in Europe on digitization, on decarbonization, and also an emergent strategy for hydrogen. These are indeed very, very important, and I'm sure this will be reflected by our industry in all earnestness. And of course, for all our partners and our friends from Germany who have joined us, do please make use of the wonderful program that the Indian Embassy has to offer, which is Make in India Mittelstand. Do please be in touch with us or with ACMA, and we'll be very happy to facilitate any connection or any help that you would need with regards to the Indian automotive industry. Once again, Ambassador, thank you so much for joining us. Please have a great day. Ladies and gentlemen, we now move on, and our next speaker is Mr. Mike Hawes. Mike is the Chief Executive of SMT, and he has more than 2 decades of experience in the space of policy and public affairs. A large portion of that has been in the automotive industry at Bentley, as you know, the parent company being the Volkswagen, and also at Toyota. And of course, he has huge knowledge about the automotive industry, and currently he is in some sense facilitating the dialogue of the UK industry with its government as they navigate the Brexit. So Mike, the floor is yours, and I invite you for your address, please.
Well, thank you, Vinny. Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, everyone. I hope that you are well. My apologies, we can't meet face to face, and Vinny, it would be good to see you again. But like everyone else, I think we're still struggling to suppress the virus, and so cannot travel. Indeed, the last time I got on a plane was to go to India 12 months ago, and that seems like an eternity. So, but you know, we hope our hopes for 2021 are for a more positive year than 2020. Okay, what I'd like to talk to you about today is the opportunities in the UK, and especially post-Brexit. Well, as I said, in talking about the UK, yes, finally, we have overcome, well, we've got through Brexit. Some 4.5 years after the referendum, a deal was finally agreed on Christmas, and just before Christmas, and the challenge is now into how we take advantage of any opportunities that we can. It wasn't the view of the industry that we wanted to Brexit, but that is the democratic will of the people. So now, whether we like it or not, we need to take advantage of the opportunities. Okay, if we go to slide 2, please. What you see on slide 2 is, let me talk a bit about the SMT. The SMT, we do look after the UK automotive industry in its entirety. It is about manufacturers, importers of cars, bus, truck, trailers, taxis, for instance. It is about the supply chain, and it is about the aftermarket. We try to be a single voice to all the industry, and in that regard, we try and promote and create the right safe tissues at home and abroad. That means trying to make sure we do develop international links, and obviously India has been a critical one over the years. Next slide, please. If you look at the UK automotive industry, what is its scale? It's a very diverse industry in the UK, as you may well know. Generally the second largest new car market, about the 4th largest automobile manufacturer in Europe, but very diverse. Large transnationals investing in the UK for production, think Toyota, Nissan, BMW. Obviously a lot of specialist and premium manufacturers, and some very famous brands when you think Jaguar, Land Rover, Bentley, Rolls-Royce, Aston Martin, and so forth. But also both a supply chain and an aftermarket, which is critical to the success of the industry. Basically, we have the scale. Looking at last year, in terms of production, we were down 30%. That is a direct result of the pandemic and a direct result of so many of our key markets having to close to sale of vehicles. The recovery has been slow, I must admit. We are now back in lockdown, but this time manufacturing is staying open, and it's able to do that because it's an international industry. It trades with about 160 different countries on the world. Next slide, please. Looking at the size of the market, last year we were 1.6 million vehicles. Normally we're about 2.3 million or so. We lost that 750,000 units in basically the second quarter when we were in lockdown, and we never recovered it. However, we are operating. What has been interesting over the past two short lockdowns we're having is how consumers have taken to a click and collect model, ordering online and either having it delivered or going to a dealership which is actually shut to be able to collect it. So that certainly helps overcome some of the challenges of the lockdown. The big challenge for the industry, to you, to us, to all of us, is moving away from fossil fuels. Next slide, please. And we look at battery electric vehicle and plug-in market projections. The UK government has announced that it will ban or end the sale of conventional petrol and diesel engines in 2030. It will let hybrids, which have full hybrids or plug-ins, continue to 2035. This is a milestone declaration. It is critically important to this government, and the UK is obviously hosting COP26 in November, and it wants to use that global conference to encourage all markets to move away from fossil fuels on road transport. We do not underestimate the challenge that presents. And at least we know certainly we were about trying to achieve that target in the UK. So what we're seeing at the moment is about 1 in 10 new car sales is a plug-in vehicle of some description, pure electric or plug-in hybrid. That's got to increase to 10 out of 10 in 9 years. It's a phenomenal task that is before us. We need to overcome affordability issues, infrastructure issues, and also make sure the consumer makes that transition. So it's not just in the gift of the industry, it's about other stakeholders too. Next slide, please. But there are opportunities in the UK, and one of the critical things that we need coming out of the Brexit deal and also that 2030 statement is the need to increase battery production in the UK. We currently have a small gigafactory in Sunderland next to the Nissan plant. We have an announcement late last year of a new gigafactory by British Volt. This will give us a total of only about 15 gigawatt hours by 2024. We need to increase that 4 or 5 times to maintain the scale of production we require. So government is talking to a lot of different companies about investment. That needs to accelerate because the future of the industry will be increasingly electrified, or as we just heard, moving towards the hydrogen society, especially for larger and commercial vehicles. Hydrogen is probably much more of the future. So if you look at the next slide about the need for gigafactories and battery materials, it cannot be underestimated. The demand that we have for these types of technologies, whoever holds the technologies, whoever, we need to attract that investment into the UK. It is the UK industry has scale and it is moving at pace towards these new technologies. The challenge for us is to make sure the supply chain and the aftermarket may also keep up with that pace of change. Next slide, please. Let's look at what are the supply chain opportunities for the UK. Well, according to a recent report, there's about a £24 billion demand for electric vehicle components in the UK over the next 5 years, £24 billion. Again, that is about how quickly we can move not just vehicle car production, but the supply chain as well to the new future. Key areas around power electronics, motors, drives, and so forth. And so what we just heard about the importance of technology collaboration is absolutely critical to achieve that transition. Next slide, please. Finally, it's not just, we throw your arms open and just hope that you will come. There is potential funding available to attract for inward investment. For Indian companies looking to invest in the UK or work with partners, we can help facilitate potential access to funding to ease the investment transition. The message is essentially that UK firms are looking for technological expertise, to match their own levels of expertise. They're looking for partners within this transition. But also, obviously, we have to, recognize an electric vehicle, whilst the powertrain will change, the operation of the vehicle largely remains the same. So there's still carryover components which will be there for the future. That is also about cost effectiveness and innovation as best we can. The UK, if you go to the next slide, has a strong advanced engineering capability. Many of the brands that you'll be familiar with, obviously we're essentially the home of F1, which is probably the pinnacle of automotive engineering. But also, expertise and things in high performance engineering, in composites, lightweighting, new materials, developing some electric power control technologies, the testing for connected and autonomous vehicles. A lot of these transition issues that are taking place around the world are definitely taking place in the UK, and the industry's keen to develop future partnerships there. Turning to how the relationship between the UK and India, we're already working together on a lot of different aspects, and you want to continue this relationship. Obviously, there's a relationship between Tata, Jaguar Land Rover, Mahindra, and so forth. We want to build on those sort of relationships. Certainly, India is already a major market for British-built parts, for which future sales are expected to grow by as much as 15% by next year. Our collective automotive trade between the two countries is worth some £270 million. We want to develop that. We want to build on those existing relationships. And you're already seeing some cities, for instance, Birmingham City University signed an MOU with the Kerala government. It is, again, trying to build those links to develop the technological solutions that we all need. And obviously, between SMT and ACMA, we have a very close working relationship, one that we want to see continue in the future. Just finally, something that I will promote our own event. We have, given I've spoken so much about the shift towards electrification. On the 25th of March, we're holding a conference. It will be online. Unfortunately, I had hoped we could have some people in a room, but that's just not possible yet. But it is about looking at the shift towards electrification. It's an international conference. We're trying to get a lot of people to join, both in the UK and internationally, guest speakers from around Europe and beyond, trying to, how we address some of the challenges of that transition, because that transition will determine the future success of any company in the industry. So with that, thank you very much for listening to me today. I had no idea whether the technology worked, which is not a good advert for ourselves coming from so many thousand miles away. But if we can, through the SMT, support your businesses with building links with the UK, more than happy to do so. And I look forward to the rest of the day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike, for talking to us. And I wish you great luck as the industry in UK recovers, and that part will be keenly watching as you transition to 2030, which is really a fossil fuel free automotive industry. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of learnings for us. We wish you good luck, and of course, good luck for your forthcoming summit. And as you said, we will continue to work in close partnership with you. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, I now move on to our next speaker and a dear friend. I have the honor of inviting Dr. Kurt Christian Seal, who is the Managing Director of VDA, the Business Unit, Government and Society Unit of the VDA. Dr. Scheel started his career in the year 1996 and has a vast experience in various divisions and departments, whether it is legal affairs or insurance or consumer policy or even climate change. He joined the...
So now, thank you very much, Vinny, for this very kind introduction. Dear Excellency Ambassador Ms. Mukta Tomar, dear Secretary Mr. Arun Goel, dear ladies and gentlemen, dear visitors to this great event. I'm particularly grateful for the invitation to talk to you today, but of course I would have been much more lucky if I could have traveled to India this year, as I have done last year, to give you a hug, Vinny, and to say hello to you all in person. However, times do not permit. So as Mike has said, we are all betting for a better 2021 and for an even better 2022. So we might be able again to meet in person. It is a great pleasure for me to salute you all on behalf of VDA, and I would really like to congratulate ACMA on this virtual event. We all have our experiences in virtual events these days, but this one is really great. The relationship with India is very significant for us, for the German automotive industry, and Her Excellency the Ambassador has already pointed out many aspects of our very close and strong relationship, for which we are very grateful. Our manufacturers and suppliers have more than 120 production facilities, which shows our considerable potential in India. And I would like in my presentation, and please show the first slide now, to develop a little bit on the challenges of globalization, show you a few numbers on where we expect to stand in the future, and to assess the partnership we are having with ACMA, in particularly with regards to our long-standing cooperation which we have, but also with regard to the long-standing cooperation we have with our partner, and also between our respectable governments for a long time now. Can you all see the slides? Okay, then let's move to slide 2. Slide 2 shows you that VDA is a very strong federation. We organize suppliers and OEMs in a very strong federation in order to bring forward our common interest in a partnership, not only on a German scale, but also with regards to Europe and internationally. And we are proud to do this also with regards to our Indian friends and partners. Next slide, please. On the next slide, you see some aspects of us being a strong voice, headquartered in Berlin. We have a long tradition, 120 years. We had our 120th birthday just earlier this year, of which we are quite proud of. And we are quite proud of being able to represent over 600 companies with over 800,000 employees in Germany only, bringing about the interests of the German automotive industry nationally, European-wide, and also worldwide. Next slide, please. Of course, if we look at how the markets developed, we have seen a slump of historic dimensions in 2020. Already 2019 has been kind of a setback with regards to the all-time high in the world passenger car market in 2017. But 2020 has been kind of catastrophic. So we see kind of technical recovery, 9% plus or minus to maybe 80 million cars, slightly less, slightly more. Let's see on what things will bring us this year in 2021, which is still well below the highs we have seen in 2017 and 2018, but some kind of recovery will be around. Next slide, please. Now, to be a little bit more specific with regards to the numbers of some major markets, here you see especially the Indian market we have been talking about before, and we will go into some more detail during the day. We have the largest decline in the largest decline in the last 20 years. You have all witnessed that, but also there we together hope to have a recovery also going on in the year which has now started. Next slide, please. If we look at the situation in Europe, in the United States, and in China, we have to see that Europe has been hard hit by a strong slump in 2020, with a reduction of nearly 25%, 24% in 2020, which is a lot. But also Germany has been hard hit, but also there we expect a technical recovery, maybe 10%, maybe a little more, 12% in 2021. Interesting is a look towards China, where we have seen -6% in 2020, despite the virus hitting early, but the recovery has been strong, and we expect pre-crisis levels for this year and an ongoing strong recovery. Of course, the interesting thing will be on how things develop in the United States, looking at the new president's program of 1.9 billion package to kickstart the economy. So our prognosis of plus 9% might be even overtaken by actual developments. Next slide, please. I would like to shed a short view on the issue of employment in the automotive industry, because not only in Germany, but also in other major markets, we see that the automotive industry is responsible for quite a share of the employment. In dark blue, you see what we say is the direct employment in automotive production, and in light blue, you see the automotive-related businesses in the broader sense. So in Germany, we talk of 3.7 million people, which is a share of nearly 4%. In India, we see even much higher numbers, which is quite significant, and we are also proud, and it is of course part of our responsibility to really see that this share and these numbers can not only be kept stable, but hopefully even become a little bit greater. Now, if we move to the next slide, please, I would like to make some remarks with regards to our partnership. We are very proud that the EU was India's largest trading partner in 2019, with a significant trade volume after all. And in 2020, Germany was the top 2 export market for component export out of India, and the top 3 importer of components into India, which we think is quite a lot. And we are really proud of strong and important trade and investment relations between our 2 countries. Next slide, please. Here we see a few numbers with regards to automotive trade between Germany and India. We think, of course, that FTA and you know, all these long-standing discussions would further support our trade relations. We have a slight trade surplus right now, but Corona has taken a huge toll on the German-Indian trade after all. The trade surplus declining in the on the current as a current trend. And in order for a long-term stability, we really think that a free trade agreement between our 2 strong partners would be a very good idea. Stable direct investments and free trade are 2 sides of the same coin. From our point of view, they are integral aspects of sustainable business, and they are really to everyone's mutual benefits, particularly in times as these. And you can see it in the numbers in the graph of disruptive trade developments, be it because of the crisis, but also be it because of trade policies. We have, of course, noted that in the union budget, tariff increases have been announced. You will not be surprised that we see this critically, and we have to see both sides. Of course, the interest of our Indian friends to increase their exports. On the other side, we have to see the whole picture, tariff increases in other countries which could follow the Indian step, and which could be a loss for all. This is why we firmly advocate for being as liberal as possible with regards to free trades, also when it comes, for example, to the issue of standards, and when it comes to the issue of certification and the issue of the UN agreements of 1958 and 1998. Next slide, please. Now, now we have the issue of where we stand actually with regards to the trade balance, and the trade volume between our 2 branches is still quite important, but we still see that there could be further development, and we could be more positively in this regard. And this is, I would like to move quickly to the next slide and talk a little bit about the association partnership between Germany and India. The partnership of associations is very important, not only for the two of us, for us as VDA, but also for ACMA and for SIEM, but also for our companies, because we try to help to overcome market barriers. We try to explain to where we stand. This is why we are also very grateful for the program run by the government of India and by the Indian embassy, which Her Excellency the Ambassador has just mentioned. We give support with investment projects, with quality managements. We establish contacts with other actors in India and vice versa. We support trade fair participations in India, as I have witnessed last year, and as will hopefully be possible again next year, but also with regards to the EIA and other possibilities to see each other and to meet. Next slide, please. There are, of course, many possibilities to cooperate also for component manufacturers. You can visit the website automotivecollab.com, where you can see also with regards to particular sites on what's going on with regards to collaboration possibilities. And last but not least, next slide, please. I would like to take this opportunity, and I'm very proud to do so, to invite you all to Munich in September. We will be hosting the IAA live or in a hybrid version from September 7 to September 12. We will discuss on what will move us next with regards to all developments of mobility, not only car-wise, but also looking at wider mobility systems. We will show what's going on. We will show the future downtown. We will show it in the trade fair grounds. We will show mobility overall over the place. And we are very sure that this is going to be a great thing. You are all heartily invited, and I would be proud and happy to meet you there in Munich in September. And last slide. If there's any questions around, you might address my colleagues Angela Manz, Marius Ochel, and of course Arun Chalam, in order to address any questions you might have with regards to cooperation. Let me say at this place, I'm very grateful to all of you, to Angela Manz, to Marius, to Arun Chalam, and to you all for making this really living thing. And we hope for many years to come that we will closely together as we have been in the past. Thank you very much for listening, and have a nice day.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Scheel, for that very informative presentation. And I'm very delighted to note that the industry as also employment is coming back in Germany. This is indeed very, very heartening. I just hope and I wish that the policies turn a little bit favorable in the interest of our two industries to grow together. I absolutely echo your sentiment there. And last but not the least, thank you so much for your contribution to the ACMA, SIAM and VDA joint project. We are all benefiting from it. So thank you once again also for joining us today. I wish you good health. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we now move on, and I have indeed great pleasure in inviting our next chief guest, Mr. Arun Goyal, the Secretary of the Department of Heavy Industry, Ministry of Heavy Industries and Public Enterprises, Government of India. Mr. Goyal is a postgraduate in economics from the University of Cambridge, and that apart, he has worked in several eminent positions in the Government of India. He was the Secretary in the Ministry of Culture, Vice Chairman of the Delhi Development Authority, Joint Secretary to the Government of India, and in the Department of Revenue, Ministry of Finance. Mr. Goyal, thank you once again for sparing time for us, and also many thank you for the union budget that got announced on the 1st of February. It has indeed been very benign for the industry. May I now call on you for your address, please. Mr. Secretary, sir, the floor is yours. Kindly unmute yourself, sir.
Dr. Kurt, Christian Scheel, dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen, namaste. I congratulate ACMA for organizing this Technology Partnership Summit and Expo on the theme, harnessing the Indian opportunity through technical collaborations. ECMA has been working in close cooperation with Government of India since its formation in 1959 over the last 6 decades. It has helped in trade promotion, technology upgradation, quality enhancement, and collection and dissemination of information. So Indian automotive industry has been a major economic contributor with 7% of the GDP, which is 49% of manufacturing GDP of India. The automobile sector is creating employment to the tune of 37 million, and it's 4% of India's export. If we look at auto components, as was told before me, with a turnover of 49 billion US dollars, exports of 14 and export of 14.5 billions, it contributes 2.3% of India's GDP, employing 5 million people. Still, the penetration of India is very low because we have the ownership of 28 vehicles per thousand, which shows us the high growth opportunity. As regards the electric vehicles, our penetration is extremely low because it is just beginning. And the Government of India is pushing it through various schemes like FAME and advanced mystery cells. Recently in the budget, as Vinny was mentioning, Government has announced production-linked incentive scheme for automobiles and auto components with an outlay of rupees 57,042 crores. And the second PLI is in respect of advanced mystery cells with an outlay of 18,100 crores. These PLI schemes represent one of the largest economic opportunities of the century for global growth sectors. The scheme aims at making Indian manufacturers competitive globally, attract investments, create economies of scale, enhance exports, and make India a part of global supply chain and to support Atmanirbhar Bharat. In the budget which was announced yesterday by Honorable Finance Minister, rupees 18,000 crores have been kept for 20,000 buses in the cities of country. First vehicle scrappage policy has been announced in India. The capex for the first time is going to be to the tune of more than rupees 5.5 lakh crores. Rupees 1.18 lakh crores are earmarked for the new roads. Rupees 1.15 lakh crores is earmarked for railways. So these measures are going to contribute hugely towards heavy and commercial vehicles. As Ambassador Tomar was mentioning, in respect of Germany, similarly in respect of India, MSME is extremely important and most of our auto components are in this sector. The budget outlay for this sector has also been doubled to rupees 15,700 crores. Auto electronics, which is playing higher and higher role in the automobiles of today, is also a focus of government, where under the scheme of MITI ministry, another ministry in Government of India, rupees 5,000 crores have been earmarked. Now, these are various measures which have been taken in the budget. If we see historically, the clusters as they have grown across the world, auto sector has led to evolution of capital goods in their vicinity, which has subsequently led to defense sector and then to aerospace. The clusters of high-tech manufacturing have evolved in this manner across a radius of 200 to 300 miles, be it USA, UK, Germany, France, Italy, Japan. So we have, as a country, a huge market. We have established auto industry, which is indigenized to a very large extent, but new challenges are emerging as Ambassador Tomer mentioned in respect of Germany, the digitization, AI, Industry 4.0. Towards that, our ministry has a scheme called Enhancing Competitiveness of Capital Goods Sector. We are setting up R&D sectors, R&D centers of various types, centers of excellence, and also we have launched the virtual platforms whereby we are synergizing the energy of youth, academia, technical manpower, managers, and entrepreneurs. So there we hope that they will be hosting the problems and also hosting the answers to that. We propose to host grand challenges on these platforms, which will eventually help in aggregating the resources, because in today's world, in the digitized world, the geographies and the organizations have become insignificant in terms of connectivity, and the resources can be pooled across geographies, across organizations. India, with its huge technical manpower, offers a great advantage in harnessing this strength. For the decarbonization angle, which Ambassador mentioned, we have in our ministry for the last 4 years the scheme FAME. Earlier it was FAME 1, now it is FAME 2, whereby we are giving demand incentives for two-wheelers and three-wheelers. For the passenger vehicles where they are shared, we are giving demand incentive. And for the public transport, we have introduced OPEX model across country to supply more than 5,000 electric buses. So this FAME 2 is funding to the tune of rupees 10,000 crores over 3 years. Another side which Ambassador Tomer mentioned from the German angle, that's sustainability, how the trend is emerging. Towards that, our auto industry knows our country is progressively moving towards more stringent regulatory norms. So this would obviously lead to newer advanced technologies in the emission technologies, automotive electronics, future technologies and their applications, electric components, telematics, and infotainment. So this requires a huge investment in engineering R&D. As a part of our PLI schemes, we are focusing on that. The companies which put more money in engineering R&D will get additional incentives. So we are structuring like that. So advanced chemistry cell PLI, which we are coming out, that also we are going in for the high tech. So it, as our counterpart from UK mentioned, they are setting up the 15 gigawatt hours. We are targeting something like 50 gigawatt hours for our country in the next 5 to 10 years. I congratulate ECMA for bringing our Indian industry and the EU partners on the same platform, particularly in these challenging times. I'm sure all of you will use this technological development platform for localization of systems and subsystems, technological tie-ups and partnerships, contract and joint manufacturing. I wish the event a grand success. Thank you. Namaste.
For joining us today and sparing time for us. It's indeed an honor for us. And once again, as I said, I need to copiously thank you for your support for the union budget. The PLI scheme, I'm sure a lot of our members will make good use of it. And indeed, the scrappage policy is going to give a shot in the arm to the vehicle industry as well. Thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen. Now I have the honor of inviting our co-chairperson of Pillar 1, Mr. Vikrampati Singhania, Managing Director, JK Fenner, to propose a vote of thanks. Thereafter, Mr. Singhania will also lead us into the next session, which is the panel discussion. Mr. Singhania, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Namaskar. Shri Arun Goyal ji, Honorable Secretary, Ministry of Heavy Industries and Public Enterprises, Government of India, Her Excellency Mrs. Mukta Datta Tomer, Ambassador of India to the Federal Republic of Germany, Mr. Mike Hawes, Executive Director, SMT, Dr. Kurt Scheel, Managing Director and Business Unit Government and Society of the VDA, Mrs. Anjali Singh, Chairperson of Pillar 4 ECMA, Mr. Vinny Mehta, Director General ECMA, ladies and gentlemen. A very, very good afternoon to all of you all. It's indeed I'm indeed very delighted to extend a vote of thanks to all our dignitaries, audience, and participants who have joined us for the virtual Auto Technology Partnership Summit and Expo. As you know, today we are celebrating the day as Europe Day in honor of the contribution of the European automotive industry in shaping our own auto sector. A unique thing about this event is, whilst it's virtual, we have, however, been able to leverage technology to bring the entire global automotive industry to a single platform. We at ACMA are indeed very grateful to Honorable Secretary Shri Arun Goyalji for honoring us with your presence and sharing the government perspective and policies. It is always inspiring to listen to your insightful thoughts. Sir, thank you very much for a wonderful budget, and hopefully the voluntary scrapping policy will help the industry along with the various PLI schemes that are in the works. You've also kindly been setting up a number of schemes that have been helping the industry, including upgrading of manpower. Shri Goyal has always been a friend of the industry and supported our endeavors to increase our competitiveness, not only domestically, but also increase our global footprint. Thank you for your continued support and encouragement, Shri Goyal. Your Excellency, Mrs. Mukta Tomar, we are indeed very glad that you have taken the time out from your busy schedule to be with us today. We are very appreciative of the guidance and support extended to us by the Indian Embassy in Berlin. Thank you very much for highlighting the opportunities between India and Germany in digitalization and AI, hydrogen fuel, decarbonization, e-mobility for our bilateral opportunities. Wonderful to also hear about the Make in India Mittelstand companies initiative. I'm sure European companies will take advantage of this. Mr. Hawes, it was indeed our pleasure to have you with us today and for sharing your presentation. SMMT has been partnering ACMA since the last 2 decades to promote partnerships. I'm sure post-Brexit, there will be a lot of collaboration and cooperation between our 2 countries. Indian companies and UK companies should certainly look forward to building technology collaborations and supply chain opportunities. Wonderful to hear about the funding available for these new technologies in lightweighting, electronics, etc. And thank you very much for extending your offer to continue to help build relationships between our 2 countries. Certainly look forward to seeing you back in person and having you back in India. Thank you indeed to Dr. Kurt Skeel, Managing Director of VDA, for sharing the insightful presentation. We do value our relationship with VDA. One of the initiatives with VDA is a project to support Indo-German cooperation. We are thankful for your being a dear friend and unstinted support to ACMA, for helping build relationships between our 2 countries and helping boost and build a robust supply chain. Thank you for your invitation, and surely some of our companies will come up to Munich for the upcoming exhibition. I would also like to thank the chairperson of Pillar 4, Ms. Anjali Singh, for this initiative under her leadership in collaboration with Pillar 1 of ACMA. Without her vision and hard work, these 4 days would not have happened. I'm sure this summit will help build bridges and strengthen relationships, not only amongst our companies across various countries, but between our respective associations. A big thank you to the entire ACMA team for putting this together and making it a great experience under the new normal conditions. Lastly, as I close, I request all our international partners and companies to visit and engage with the companies exhibiting in the virtual expo over the next few days. Let us work together to create a new paradigm of creating economic value through partnerships. Thank you, and Jai Hind. Shall we move on to the next part of the program? It is indeed my privilege to now extend a warm welcome to all our panel for the upcoming next discussion on globalization through technology development and partnerships. This session will give us a perspective from the automobile industry, OEMs, Tier 1, country perspectives from UK, Sweden, France, Germany, etc. and their startup perspective and how we can collaborate with the global startups. We have a wonderful panel to be led and moderated by Dr. Christian Foltz, partner of PwC Strategy Germany. He is a leading practitioner in operations strategy for PwC at a consulting group. He is the partner at Strategy in Germany, based in Düsseldorf. He focuses on automotive and industrial clients. His expertise are in business process optimization, re-engineering, innovation and product optimization, sourcing strategies, go-to-market and growth strategies. He is a member of the German Society for Industrial Engineering and Ergonomics. Christian Volz holds a diploma degree and a PhD in mechanical engineering from the RWTH Aachen University. Over to you, Dr. Volz.
Thank you, Mr. Singhania, for the kind introduction and giving me the opportunity to moderate this panel discussion. I hope you can all hear me well and everything goes right with that online panel discussion. Let me just set the context for the session and let's start my presentation. So the Indian automotive industry has shown robust growth since the last 10 years, as globally the automotive industries had strong 10 past years. Well, not all people know in the world that India is amongst the 5 largest global car manufacturers, that India is the largest tractor manufacturer in the world. This is a fact from my point of view as a German engineer, that India so far has focused strongly on their own market because this one is big enough. But today we're talking about partnerships and collaboration, and thus I would like to invite you to have a broader look into the world and what opportunities for Indian component manufacturers arise there. We heard it before that there are 18 German suppliers amongst the top 100. On the contrary, there are just 2 worldwide Indian companies in the top 100. So there's much space to grow for every one of you. Next slide, please. And of course, India is keeping pace with the global automotive trends on electrification and vehicle connectivity. Also, this we have heard in more than one of the presentations given before myself. So we have for electrification a large number of BEVs, battery electric vehicles, which are released by the traditional OEMs, but also by new OEMs. XPeng, NIO, and other Chinese are just a few which are coming into the market, and not only in China, but also in Europe and US. And this, of course, has an impact on the Indian auto industry, because it could be an alternate manufacturing hub to China. It will increase investments by OEMs and tier ones in the electric vehicle and component space. Also, the connectivity is an important trend, which is already more in place than electrification is. Subscription and services are gaining traction, not only in China, but also in Europe. And every new car where the connectivity is not given will have bad valuations. So it's a must for each and every OEM. And of course, the localization is a chance for the Indian automotive industries, electronic assemblies which are required for connected vehicles. And the big software capabilities which are in Indian will give you a chance to broaden your partnerships and your collaborations with European, Asian, and American OEMs. Next slide, please. So the Indian government and industry stakeholders have already taken important steps to address critical challenges on short terms. I don't want to go in all the details, but 4 major blocks are supply chain and logistics, managing workforce and productivity, cash flow management and working capital, and postponement of customer demand. When we're looking on supply chain and logistic, the initiatives taken are, for example, flexible sourcing or localization initiatives for key components. So here it's been tried to lower the COVID-19 impact and getting back on track. Of course, this will last until probably 22 or 23, like in all other countries in the world. But the government initiatives will help to do this faster than without that. Also, the underutilization of capacity, so managing the workforce isn't a problem, but the enablement of remote working, the digital organization has helped here to keep pace. On the cash flow side, of course, cash generation initiatives has been started, and there is a process improvement to do this better. All these things are done, I must say, as a European guy, without being much noticed from the European automotive industry so far. I have help from my colleagues Satya Udaya Kumar and Kavan Mukhtar to prepare this slide and get a deeper insight into the Indian automotive industry, which I have visited last time in September 2018. When we go to the next slide, there are also government initiatives to tackle the macro trends which we have in autos and which should give opportunities for the Indian component automotive industry. There is a rising focus on safety, and here is with the Atmanirbhar Bharat initiative and incentives and policy benefits to support localization of components for Indian demand. So this is something which leads to additional opportunities. We have also the rising penetration of electric vehicles. We have increasing pollution and rising price of fuels as other macro trends, which are important. We have, of course, the electronics share, which is rising further over the last 10 years and the next 5 years. And we have the supply chain risk. All are tackled by different Indian government measures, which leads to opportunities. Opportunities in investment in export-oriented growth, opportunities for technology alliances, partnerships, opportunities for expansion of manufacturing footprint for local and neighboring demand, and last but not least, opportunities for partnerships for new age technologies, especially electric vehicle components. Next slide. And there are already real-life examples which show the different opportunity themes across the spectrum of technology complexity in the Indian automotive component space. I don't want to mention all of those 6 you can see here, but from the left to the right, from low complexity to high complexity, I would like to mention at least 2. One is the electromechanical components, which is reducing import dependence by improving scale of existing operations or setting up new operations. Examples are Blackstone acquisition of Comstar, Suprajet acquisition of Phoenix Lamps. So I'm sure there are much more and many more opportunities going into that one. And on the upper right scheme, the EV and component localization, where localization mandates laid by government to improve self-dependency components. There are also examples. For example, Napino Faras' partnership, IOCL Finergy partnership, Mahindra LG Chem collaboration, and I'm sure you will find many more if you're looking deeper on that. That would it be from my side for setting the tone for this panel discussion. I thank you very much for listening. With that, I would like to invite Mr. Sachin Kulrani, co-chairman of the sourcing group Ziam and head of purchase production materials Skoda, to give his perspective in brief. Mr. Kulkarni is a recognized expert and strong leader in purchase area. He ran various projects by purchase at Volkswagen Group and other OEMs across the world during his 25 years of strong and rich experience. So, Mr. Kulkarni, the stage is yours.
Okay, namaskar, very good afternoon and guten Morgen. I hope I am audible before I start. Okay, so I think we all have seen what a change has happened in the last 1 year, but the life moves, that's what I can say. And thank you for especially ATMA to arranging such a wonderful conference, even though we don't meet each other because of the COVID situation, but at least we can communicate, we can see each other, and we can progress into our day-to-day businesses, what we are going to do. In this context, one thing I would like to now start discussing about globalization through technology development and partnership. So basically, as a Skoda Volkswagen Group, we see that this era is called as a disruption, because we are getting disrupted, especially with the connectivity, then the innovation, and then the technology. We see new e-mobility, e-commerce, autonomous driving coming. Then same thing in terms of technology, 3D printing, robotics, biotechnology, drones, and then innovation in terms of internet, big data, artificial intelligence, cloud computing. So today we are in a situation where I see that we are getting disrupted with all the new technologies, new innovations coming. However, the industry is also growing in the same pace what is expected, and the world is going through the now deep transformation, especially in terms of the sustainability, urbanization, and then the digitalization what we see. And coming to the Volkswagen Group policy, it has been always to localize wherever we go and set up our new facility. That's where we are doing, and that's what we are continuing to do it here in India also. And let me tell you a little bit my experience, because I joined Volkswagen Group way back in 2008, where the Skoda Volkswagen Group, rather Skoda came far behind in 2001 to India, but they have a small facility in Aurangabad, but Volkswagen came with a complete new manufacturing facility in Pune instead of Maharashtra. When we came in 2008 and 9, and when we did a feasibility study and the audit when we conducted with the suppliers, with the VDA, whatever we talk about 6.3, let me be very honest, many suppliers were astonished to know what is VDA 6.3. So that was a situation way back in 2009, but today everybody knows. That's where the Indian industries, both in terms of the OEMs and the suppliers, are growing. Just to give you a figure, because it's very quite interesting to know, in 2009, we had audited almost 100 suppliers, and we had only 4 A-rated suppliers as per the VDA 6.3 auditing, and B-rated around 67, and we had many C-rated suppliers. Whereas today, I am very proud to say that we have 143 suppliers. Out of that, there are close to 60 suppliers which are already A-rated. 85 suppliers are B-rated, and we do not have any suppliers right now into a C-rated category. That's where you can see in the last 10-12 years how the industry is growing. Indian suppliers are growing, and they are becoming quite competitive in terms of technology, in terms of the quality, what is expected with us as a global suppliers. And European companies, I think a lot has been discussed. There is a very good relationship with the Europe, especially the German companies, what we have. We are one of them. We have Mercedes, then we have BMW, plus there are many suppliers who have come to India way back, quite long, especially if you see history of Bosch. Bosch has come, I think, if I'm not wrong, in 1950s, 60s, and today Bosch has well established, and they have everything local. And now with the initiative of Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, what has been discussed, and even I am the part of that as a co-chairman, and we are discussing a lot in terms of localizing. We have to go ahead with the localization, And when I talk about Skoda Volkswagen, we have also done, we are bringing suppliers here. We are making joint ventures with the local suppliers. We want the technology. There are many group suppliers who have put up their plant here in India, and definitely we are growing and we are supporting to each other. However, still, when we look of the imports, still there is a large imports what is happening. I think it's just close to around 1,50,000 crores of imports what is happening, and still 20% comes out of the drive transmission and steering, some 13% from interiors, electricals 11.9, then we have engine components. Of course, India need to still grow and develop, especially in terms of the tools, dies and molds, because this is one area where after certain, let me say 1,200 tonnage, we are still dependent. And as per the Atmanirbhar Abhiyan, or whatever the direction given by the Honorable Prime Minister of India, including with the support of ACMA, we together, SIAM and ACMA, are working so that we want to increase this localization and make more self-reliance as a country. Then still there are a lot of opportunities. When I come to the opportunities, when I see automotive electronics, we have still what we can look for localizations are the sensors, electronic control unit, mechatronics, PCBs, TFT, LCD displays. Then in terms of composite materials, electrical vehicle, gearbox and electric drive components, EV chassis and battery systems, converters and inverters, EV connectors, future technology and applications, ADAS systems, connected vehicle devices, telematics, infotainment. And it is also good that everyone knows India is very, very strong in terms of the software development. And I also see now a lot of USA, European companies, they are setting up their technical center or R&D center here in India. And all the back work is done in India, because India still being a cost competitive country in terms of the manpower, in terms of the knowledge, what India has. So that is enormous and phenomenal. And most important, India, you see what happened with Corona. When we started way back in March, and today coming to this year, in 1 year, we have turned back. Actually, we all were a little bit scared or worried how the economy and market will react. But especially after October, November, things have started coming back to normal, and even the automotive sales has grown up. That's where the Indian people, Indian tradition, Indian culture is there, that we react very fast, we come back very fast, and we also know how to survive in a very difficult situations, because that's where we all have gone into that. Now, some of the expectations what we are looking from the supplier industry is to become competitive, because we have to export, so that brings a lot of localizations to India. So because we can create a good supplier base in India, we have to look for a best cost, then nevertheless new technologies, complexity metrics, investment optimization, and then the development capability. So that's where we are still looking, and I am quite confident, at least in the next 5 years, under the leadership of Honorable Prime Minister Modi, there is a lot of push, a lot of support also from the government side. Things are going to change, and probably India will be emerging as one of the biggest market for even export going out of India, or Germany or USA trying to import more and more from India. So that's the view from my side, Dr. Christian Foltz.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kulkarni. Let me ask one question.
Yeah.
What do you think? How are Indian component suppliers perceived in the global automotive supply chain?
Okay. In the global automotive supply chain, suppliers are perceived as an emerging potential now. India has a lot of emerging potentials, which as I already told, now things have improved in the last 5-10 years. India is becoming equally competitive in terms of technology, in terms of quality, and as usual, still we are a cost competitive country. There is a lot of potential from the Indian suppliers to export out of India, which is seen from the global OEMs.
Thank you very much. Next, I would like to invite Mr. Subodh Tandale. He's a member of the Management Board and the Executive Director of Bharat Forge Limited. He's also a member of the Management Board of Bharat Forge Global Operations in Europe and US. Mr. Tandale joined Bharat Forge in 1991. Over the years, he has held leadership positions in developing and nurturing Bharat Forge's global business and strategy. He is also involved in Bharat Forge strategic planning and global business development initiatives. Mr. Tandale, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Foltz, and greetings to Mr. Singhania and my co-panelists. ACMA asked me to share some of our experiences, particularly with Europe as a background and what we have done in Europe over the last few years. And for those who do not know us, we are headquartered in Pune, India. Bharat Forge is a company that makes forged and machine components for a wide range of industries, from commercial vehicles, automotive, industrial areas like oil and gas, aerospace, off-highway and defense, and several other areas. We have about 6,000 employees globally. In the context of what Sachin just mentioned, Bharat Forge has been probably the only Indian forging supplier for safety critical components to the global market since the even prior to that, in the 80s, we were supplying such components to Japan and Russia, and also to some countries in the former Eastern Bloc. Our technology development started really in a big way in the late, I would say, 1989-1990 timeframe. And one of the first steps that the company did was to install a very modern, large screw press bought from Germany. And of course, we have 6 of those now, but in those days, this was a huge step for a company like ours in India. But that also taught us a very important lesson. Once the press was installed in 1991, the lesson it taught us was you can have a world-class equipment, but just having that equipment cannot guarantee a world-class product. You need technology, you need to develop that, and you have really 2 options for that. Either you go and tie up with somebody, or you develop it yourself. The option we chose was to self-develop, and in our view, this became a key differentiator for us in the last 30 years. In the last 30 years, we have sort of reinvented us at least 5 times. And as a part of this constant upgradation, we have been able to really create a place for ourselves in the global industry, of course, in India as well. And now we are already implementing a lot of activities towards setting up a digital factory. When we started in the mid-90s, particularly addressing the international market, we achieved breakthrough in North America, in the commercial vehicle market of North America. And probably in about 5 years, we achieved a dominant position for the safety critical parts that we supplied. And I have to point out that this was not easy for an Indian company in those times, particularly the pre-internet era. However, I think looking back, some of the success factors, I think one of the biggest one was we offered a highly differentiated product. And I think a big factor at that time was also we were able to set up a very strong reputation of dependability in the global supply chain. And then, of course, we tried to continue growing ourselves in North America, but we also tried to grow ourselves in Europe in that time period. And in our experience, particularly in the late 90s, we found Western European OEMs far more demanding than their counterparts in the US. And we tried to analyze a lot of why this was the case. At the end of the day, the vehicle technology was more or less concurrent. But one difference we found that the supplier base in Europe, particularly I'm talking about with the context of the forging industry, was significantly more mature and probably more sophisticated as well. And that really created a very dominant challenge for us to address the European market. However, with a lot of efforts and perhaps based on the reputation that we created for ourselves in the US, we won some contracts in Europe in late 90s with large and highly reputed German OEMs. And this really became a huge beginning for us. But this beginning was not just in the supply chain aspect of it. This beginning was also for a lot of different reasons. And what I'm about to tell you is probably deviant from the theme of this conference, and I actually mentioned this to ACMA as well. But in our case, we feel that a lot of our activities were driven by our customers in terms of the opinions that they shared to us and the advice they gave us from time to time. And we think we probably got this advice because we provided some differentiated solutions to them in those days, not necessarily by the cost arbitrage that India sort of was expected to provide, but by technology and reliability. We worked with a lot of those customers on trying to upgrade products that we supplied to them. We worked in the early days on various concepts of lightweighting and so on and so forth, although those were early days for these kind of concepts. But based on these sort of discussions on a regular basis, a lot of our customers started introducing us to our competitors in Europe and tried to forge a relationship or an alliance with us for us to work together. And this continued for a year or two. And essentially, then we started increasingly getting directed towards setting up a footprint in Europe in particular. And based on all of this, we actually acquired premium forging companies in Germany and in Sweden. We now have 4 plants in Germany and a plant in Sweden, and we also have 2 plants in the US. Over the last 15 to 18 years, together with our EU plants, we have worked with our customers constantly to evolve our offering in terms of technology and obviously our product offering, which is both in steel and aluminum, including in forged and machine condition. We are also consciously aware that the new technologies that are coming in and the expectations that are coming in on us as suppliers as well. And we believe that the key is to create value for sure. With our current infrastructure, we are well prepared for deeper engagement with current customers and new, of course, for various technology solutions, both in the traditional part of the business and the emerging new technologies. And we feel that working synergistically, we can provide value-added solutions to our customers. So this is a little experience we can share of what we have done between India and Europe over the last 15 years. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tandale. Our next speaker is Mrs. Anandi Iyer. She is the director and head of the Fraunhofer Gesellschaft India office. She was for several years also special advisor to the Federal Ministry of Education and Research, Government of Germany. She has been working in the field of collaborative technology and innovation in the Indo-European corridor for the last more than 20 years. Currently, she is pursuing her PhD in evolution of innovation ecosystems in emerging markets from University of Leipzig in Germany. Mrs. Iyer, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Dr. Falls. Mr. Singhania, my esteemed panelists, I hope you can hear me well.
Yes, we can. Thanks.
Thank you. And good day and schönen guten Tag and a wonderful day to all of the people joining in from all over the world. It's an honor and pleasure for me to represent the Fraunhofer here on this exciting platform. on a topic that is so close to all our hearts. We are living in very, very difficult times of Corona, but it is this resilience that the auto industry has shown this year, despite the hurdles, that actually encourages us to stay focused on the job at hand. I've been asked today to share our view on behalf of Fraunhofer and our clients on what are the product groups and technologies where there is an opportunity for Indian suppliers to think of partnership with the German OEMs, and also to kind of throw light from our experience on what are the developments in technology, the frontier areas, and partnerships that are likely to develop over the next 2 to 3 years. As you know, Fraunhofer is one of the world's largest applied research organizations with more than 73 institutes, nearly 30,000 scientists, and a budget of 2.5 billion euros. We have been present in India for the last nearly 12 years, and it has been an exciting journey. And I'm really pleased that one of the top areas, industry subsectors for us, has been the automotive industry, the production technologies, as we say. The main difference that I would like to highlight here when we work in Germany or other advanced economic countries as opposed to emerging economies of India is the kind of cohesive and symbiotic relationships that suppliers and OEMs have, where they add value proposition to the entire relationship and dynamics. The Indian supply chain has world-class capability and quality. You know that several of our small and medium industry companies have won Deming Prize and many such awards in quality. They're well recognized. They supply to the world's leading OEMs. So given this scenario, we really believe that German OEMs can be provided with a robust and trusted alternative to China and other Southeast countries in the changing global paradigm that we see today. And the access to the large and segmented market of India could be a huge attraction to the OEMs. What you really need, in my view, is an innovation cluster similar to ones that Fraunhofer has coordinated in over 28 sectors in Germany and in many parts of the world, including China, Indonesia, Japan, Korea, where the entire value chain of stakeholders come together in close cooperation to accelerate research to market. This is a wonderful instrument which has proven to shave off 4 to 6 years in the deployment of technologies, purely because you take a technology readiness of 3 to 4 and bring it to a technology readiness of 8 to 9 on a scale of 10 in the shortest period of time, because all the stakeholders that are relevant for this acceleration are together and are working towards a shared objective. This is one of the most powerful initiatives that I would see if we can form a testing innovation cluster, because in India, we really need testing and accelerated testing infrastructure. If we can bring together excellent SMEs that are already part of the supply chain to large OEMs to test new tech interventions so that they can be scaled up in India, given the market opportunities that we have, and of course the cost and scale arbitrage that we offer, this could add huge value to the OEMs. As you know, the new S&T policy of the Government of India places huge emphasis on R&D, and they have also identified a few sectors where this is of critical importance to India. To my mind, I think the high-tech, low-cost casting and forging technologies that are present in Germany, and Fraunhofer has worked very closely with China to develop these technologies, could be of huge interest to India. The risk mitigation of businesses through utilization of facilities and capability, also for allied industry areas such as aerospace and dual-use technologies, could be very interesting. Digitalization, of course, some of my colleagues, speakers before me have spoken about it in much detail, whether it's Industry 4.0 or digitalization of production, is an extremely critical area. And the localization of tech application for growing economies of India is of extreme importance. We have also had several inquiries in the field of lightweighting, surface coating technologies, particularly for anti-rust, anti-dust, fuel efficiency, etc., which are relevant not only for India, but for similar economies. I would like to give you one example here to strengthen the statement that I'm making. Several years ago, I think about 5 or 6 years ago, when I was in Bremen, where one of our top institutes in materials technology is present, I saw that they had developed a RFID in casting, knowing that casting is practically a black box which comes from various suppliers, and you do not know how it reacts under different conditions, whether it's cryogenic or cold temperatures. They had inserted an RFID chip which could indicate how and simulate how the casting block will work under different conditions and how it would react. Now, this was costing €2 6 years ago per sensor or RFID chip. And my analysis coming back home was that given the casting industry in India and the scale at which we work, if we had tested this at that time in India, it could have been brought down to 40 cents and taken back to Germany or other advanced countries. So these are some of the ideas that I would see the innovation clusters in India working on to test and prove technologies and take them back to other parts of the world. Coming to the second aspect, which is the technology partnerships, a huge opportunity that is staring at India's face is the aspect of frontline technology applications, particularly in the field of software. India is a software giant and the supply chain has excellent track record of quality and human resource capability. We should really build on these trends and explore partnership in frontline technology applications, particularly in the field of connected and autonomous vehicle offerings and smart mobility efforts. We heard of an example where Daimler is partnering with Infosys. We have examples of Microsoft in Europe and many such collaborations where predictive software maintenance and cybersecurity is a big topic. Additive manufacturing is another area where we are working very closely with Indian companies, as also digital platforms production, what you would call Industry 4.0. But of course, we all know that Industry 4.0 is a very complex topic given India's capability and its various evolution stages. But I'm sure there are a lot of learnings to share in this area as well. A very interesting area that is coming up to us often in India today, I would like to bring out, is the AI and automation in logistics, particularly warehousing. For example, 3D bin picking, AGV or AMR for warehouse automation, manipulation with drones, or even imitation learning to teach robotic arms, both cobots and industrial. And interestingly, we are working with automated wiring of components within larger assemblies, such as air conditioners, furnaces, etc. We are extremely closely involved with the Government of India as well as other partners in the field of electric mobility, be it battery storage for electric vehicles or the grid connectivity, as well as in the mass transport sector, including e-auto rickshaws. And we have recently also completed the feasibility study for e-vehicle charging infrastructure for Delhi. A huge area which I would like to see India getting more involved is the emergent hydrogen fuel technologies. Fraunhofer has its own station in Germany where for the past 8 years, we've been tanking the public utility vehicles with hydrogen fuel. And recently we set up a huge excellence center in Korea. So I think this is an area where we would be very keen to work with India. These are some of the topics that have been uppermost on my mind. So I thought I'll share these with you, and I'm very happy to take any questions that may come up during the course of the debate. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your inspiring speech. May I now invite Mr. Peter Berntsson, Senior Project Leader and Advisor of FKG, Fordons Komponentgruppen, Sweden, which is an association of Scandinavian suppliers to the automotive industries with 320 member companies. Mr. Berntsson is responsible for all R&D questions and is a member in several advisory boards and funding programs for the industry. He has a background of 25 years in automotive industry in many positions. Please, Peter Berntsson, your stage is yours.
Thank you very much. I hope you can hear you well. Welcome to a very cold and snowy Gothenburg, Sweden today. It's a pleasure to be invited from ACMA to be a part of this panel, and I will give you our view of the automotive industry from the Swedish point of view. We work a lot to convince our part of the industry to convert to the new normal. And as we have Ericsson, a telecom company here in Sweden, we compare the automotive with telecom a lot. And in 2007, we had 5 big companies dominating the telecom industry. And then the smartphone came, and 10 years later, only one of these survived. And we believe that the automotive industry will go through similar situation as the telecom industry did. The industry will change from producing vehicles to produce mobility. Other factors that are important for the future is how we move from point A to point B, and it will not be chassis properties and horsepowers anymore. The quality and time of the movement of people and goods, packages, that will really matter in the future. But the big change is the new business model we see. The turnover in the automotive industry will be much higher, but the volumes will be much lower in the future. The new business cases are a disruptive change for passenger cars with electrification and car sharing. And we really need to make the passenger vehicles more efficient. We need to use the physical products we are making much better. And of course, again, it will be electric. Most probably many of the OEMs today, and we have 3 OEMs here in Sweden, quite a lot for a small country like ours, will also be suppliers in the future and supply to some operating companies. What we have noticed is that all this, the big change we are going through is we need a lot of competence, and we have started some program here in Sweden to try to convert engineers that have been working with combustion engines, for example, to electric vehicles. And we believe that the country that will success with this convert of engineers in the best and quickest way will be the winner in the future. We also see a lot of new collaborations. Nearly every week we can read about new collaborations between automotive companies, battery companies, telecom and data companies. We also need much more collaboration between countries in Europe and globally, and that's why this type of event is really, really good and important. As you know, maybe nearly half of every second truck sold in Europe are from Sweden, from Scania and Volvo trucks, and that's quite impressive. And we believe that is will be the main industry for us in the next 10 years. So we believe that Sweden have a great position for the future, and we have a good automotive sector, but we also have a lot of mining. We have created Skype, we have created Spotify, we also have created Minecraft, and this is a type of industry we're looking into also in the automotive industry. And then of course we have Greta Thunberg, who inspired us all to have the right mindset for the future. So thank you. This is from Sweden, and I'm happy to have answer questions afterwards.
Thank you very much, Peter, for your thoughts. Let's proceed, and we now go to Didier Sepulch-de-Condé, a real automotive veteran, vice president from FIEV. He has worked more than 40 years in the automotive supplier industry and was president of NTM as an R group for EMEA from 2006 to 2016. Please, Mr. Didier.
Thank you very much. I hope you hear me well.
We can hear you well, thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. So I just would like to say that effectively by FEEV, so we are the Association of French Equipment Supplier, which has more than 300 companies and acting from component supplier to services and aftermarket. So I will come back on this on this topic later. Today we are very linked anyway with India since a very long time. A lot of French companies are acting in India and manufacturing there. And I have the chance to be advisory board member of 2 or 3 companies acting in India. For example, Aremont in Pune or Poquelin Hydraulics in Pondichéry. And my last visit overseas was to India exactly 1 year ago, so in Pondichéry, and I hope we can come back. French industry has been working with India since a very long time. Both car manufacturers, which have projects, either in the frame for Renault, in the frame of alliance with Nissan, or for Peugeot Citroën since long time, new project. And maybe you have heard that there is now, under the new name of Peugeot Citroën Fiat Stellantis, there is a new project to produce Citroën DS range in India in 3 years. So I think we will have new opportunities to support suppliers to India. On the other side, we also, as a French companies, are working with Indian suppliers companies since very long time. And Bharat is, of course, a very good example of this relationship. But both OEM, French OEM, and also equipment supplier, big one or medium one, are working with Indian supplier, considering, and this is still the case, India, in terms of automotive component, as a very competitive base. And there is more and more project working on this side, and I will come back also on this later. And finally, also, what is for us very important is the aftermarket situation, and especially with the new services to customers. Today, we consider as FEEV that we are facing a 3-side disruption, which has already been mentioned. First, the energy one, engine and powertrain has to be changed, considering energy transition. The second one, of course, is a digital one, both in connection of cars, but also in services for user. And third one, which is the usage of car, and I will come back on that later, which imposed to us to really tackle all these subjects at the same time, which makes this, as you already both mentioned, as a real disruption in our world. What are our main priority and challenge? The first one is, it has already also mentioned, is we have 4 main targets in the FEEV for automotive equipment supplier. The first one is carbon neutrality to 2050. And in this frame, this is very important for us that India is going to consider this topic since we, as I explained, we have a lot of suppliers in India, and we would like Indian supplier to go and to move on all this new technology in order to be able to support our industry as major supplier in the worldwide supply chain. This is very important that India move to this new powertrain technology in order to support all French, but mainly worldwide and European supply chain. The second topic we have to tackle with is autonomous and connected cars. This is very clear. Again, this new technology, we would have to find competitive solution. And I come back to my main point, which is competitiveness of the supply chain. When we look at what we are to do in the next 10 years in terms of car equipment, one of the big issues is going to be the price of the car and the access of technology to all the people of the world. The cars are becoming more and more expensive, and what would be our ability as supply chain members to be able to achieve economical target which will allow more and more people in the world to have access to mobility. We think this is one of the main issues. And in this field, we consider that competitiveness of the supply chain is one of the main topics. And in this respect, we rely very much on what could be done in India, not only in terms of manufacturing, but also in terms of design and process of manufacturing and material. And all of this is very important in order to ensure competitiveness of the supply chain. The last point I would like to mention is also the fact, and India is for that a very interesting market, considering the space, the area of India, very large country, but also very numerous people in India. We consider that in the field of access to mobility and mobility service, India could be a very interesting field of experience, of development, of new system connection of mobility and services to customer, maintenance of car and services. This is why, as you know, FIEV is owning Equipoto exhibition, and I take this opportunity to say that the next Equipoto exhibition, which includes all equipment supplier, will take place in Paris in October 22. And this exhibition and the concept and the concept and the target of this new exhibition is going to move from the idea from aftermarket to services. And we think that with the new usage of car and the new generation using car, the services in car industry or car business and car revenue and services not only between equipment supplier and car manufacturer, but services to end user of cars would be very important. So we are going to emphasize this point, and we hope that we can develop this also, and maybe there is some area of cooperation with India on this topic of Indian companies. For that, we have been creating in FIEV a fund, Stiftung in German, which more than some millions of euro, and that we want to dedicate to promoting new project and startup project with young people to develop all these new mobility services. And in this respect, we would be glad if we could have some joint project with India and Indian startupper or Indian new company and new project in this mobility service that could be a frame of cooperation between French leaders and Indian leaders that we could support through this foundation, which would be really a pleasure to do that. And maybe we can also have a look in this direction. So that's all for me. Thank you again to ACMA and to you all for this very interesting session. And I hope it would be the start of new cooperation in the new world of automotive. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. May I now introduce Julian Sixx. He's project lead of the GINSEP, the German-Indian Startup Exchange Program based in Berlin. Before that, he spent around 5 years in India as a consultant and project manager in various projects. He holds the Master of Arts from RWTH Aachen and is specialized on emerging markets with a particular focus on India. Julian, please go ahead, but be brief. If I look right on the watch, we are running out of time a little bit.
Okay, thank you very much for the introduction, and also thank you very much for the invitation today. It's really an honor to be here, and I would briefly like to talk a little about GINSEP. This is our project, or the project that I'm leading. GINSEP stands for German Indian Startup Exchange Program. So there I would highlight more about the startup activities or the role of startups also. And in this light, in this context, in this cooperation between startups in the field of Germany and India. So what we are doing with our work is mainly we connect the startup ecosystems between Germany and India, and for that we act as an open platform for all actors. A little bit about this in a second. Most important to understand is that we work from Germany to India and India to Germany. So we support German startups that look at India for cooperation partners, or also to use India as a market, or to sell their products, their solutions, and also from India to Germany. And their startups, we see that we talked much more about OEMs so far, but startups, we see huge potential there. We don't only focus on mobility, but mobility is one of our focal areas that we work on. This is actually let's say an organic focus, because there are many startups active in that field in both Germany and India. And startups, what is so special about startups? Well, they're usually very lean. They come up with solutions that are scalable, that are very simple. That is something that you can scale easily from a small region or a small first customer, and then you can take it up because it's, let's say, a simple digital solution. So, and as you all know, also more and more established companies are looking for innovation through startups. So they are actively scouting and sourcing startups. And this is where we come in and want to support as well. And with our platform at GINSEP, we want to bring together all players that are relevant in this field. And this is, of course, not only the startups, the German startup and the Indian startup, but also corporates that are, as I said, looking for a startup solution. And but also investors, incubators, accelerators, other associations. We work with the VDA, and also we have a project on talent, and we work with other support organizations. So as you see, we follow a very holistic approach, and we think that is necessary to boost and push the cooperations between startups or in the field of startups in general. What do we do in general with our work? It's a lot of promotion in Germany to promote that India is a fantastic place for sourcing innovation, so sourcing solutions from startup, particularly in the field of mobility. That is also the case. So what we do is with our promotion events there, we get connected to other corporates or companies approach us that are interested in Indian startups, and then we act as a facilitator and organize workshops to bring them together and participate in bigger events and so forth. The important thing is why also the cooperation is so important, that particularly for a startup, we're not talking about like some super established big company. No, for startups, they are working much leaner, much smaller, and for them the cooperation is really the key to expand, to take the product to the next level. This is why we want to connect the German and the Indian side. As I said, it can be an Indian corporate with a German startup digital solution, or the other way around. So this is why we are very much open to all kind of, that I mentioned, to all kind of organizations from India and Germany that are looking at the other country and looking at startup solutions. So I'm really much looking forward to get into further discussions on this. And if corporates out there or individuals out there are interested to get involved, we are there to support and see that there is lots of potential. For example, in this year we're planning a digital delegation with the Indian startups, also in the field of mobility, to Germany. So through this, we want to facilitate more and push the entire topic much more. So I'm looking forward to discuss this further, and also for others there in the audience to reach out to me through our website, GINSEP, or on LinkedIn as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Julian. Very interesting. May I now invite our last speaker for today, Mr. Andreas Mühlender, Head of Materials Management for ZF's Active Safety Division in Germany. Before joining ZF in December 2019, Andreas was with General Motors, Opel for nearly 25 years. He brings with him a vast experience in purchasing and supply chain. Andreas, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Christian, for the introduction. I hope you all can hear me well. And,
yes,
very good. So, and my greetings to everyone on this conference, and definitely a pleasure for me to be invited to this gremium. Thanks to Agma and everyone who organizes in the background. I mean, we already heard a lot from all the panel participants and before the speeches, and I don't want to repeat everything. But I think Sakin Kulkarni made it very clear we are in a very disrupting environment, and ZF, as one of the top 5 first-tier suppliers, very close with nearly every OEM around the globe, is of course heavily affected by this and reacting to this. And so therefore, in this environment we described about competitiveness on one side, CO2 footprint optimizations and reductions, and as well then autonomous driving, electrified. This is something where, of course, we also have to change completely our business model in this regard to support this and our OEMs around the globe. ZF is, of course, the headquarters is in Friedrichshafen, and with this, it is a German company, but it's definitely a very global company. And also my division, I started 1 year ago, as Christian mentioned, the Active Safety Division, mainly for steering and braking, is definitely one of the more global divisions inside ZF. There are 8 divisions, and we only have 46 plants, only alone Division A globally. And yeah, maybe not everyone knows, but ZF is since 5 decades in India represented. We definitely have a good understanding, maybe not me personally, but definitely our group, about the capabilities of our supply chain and so our suppliers more for the traditional business in India. And we have great joint ventures and partnerships with companies more in the field of I would say forging, formings, castings. Specifically, when I look to my steering and braking business, I'm responsible in materials management. However, we are now on the journey to connect all this hardware to autonomous driving with software. And for this, you need exactly this electronics and electromechanic parts to combine this all to, at the end, provide the technology and the service to our OEMs and the final customers, and also in India, of course, faster than maybe in other countries before, where we can say we have an environmental-free car driving autonomous and driving safe. And that's exactly where ZF will be one of the few companies in the globe who can provide this technology and wants to provide this technology. It's our vision. To the OEMs and with this to the final customers. And we have in our group then all these components and technologies available. But this drives me to exactly to the main point of the discussion. I was asked, where do you expand further and what technologies and what do you need for it? And that's exactly, I think, the change we have now to do from this more traditional part supplies local or also as export. I mean, we have great suppliers exporting as well these products I just mentioned before, to now also get these technology parts into India, local for local. I mean, again, even when supply chain is only 10% maybe of the complete carbon footprint responsible, manufacturing is a lot more. We need to manufacture local. We need to follow our customers. And as mentioned, India is one of the 5 biggest markets for auto industry. So there is no way to not be there. And there's no way to also not be there with the right technologies going forward. And India has great capabilities in this regard. We mentioned also, I think before, with different trends about the software capabilities and development capabilities. Again, I think they are very good suppliers already for the hardware you need on our steering and braking systems and chassis systems. And now we have to connect the dots with the right electronic components and software to really bring this together. And that is maybe my speech, where I think it's not just Germany and India. I would say definitely a lot of other companies outside maybe Europe and in Europe together who can play and bring technology into India, but there's a lot India brings already and can bring already with the capabilities being there. And here we have to connect it. Here we have to connect the right partners. Again, we have good experiences with joint ventures to start these things. And that is where we are also going there. And until 2030, so the next 10 years, the business will change completely. And I can already say that from our 8 divisions, minimum 5 divisions will be very active in India. And this is mainly on the truck business, mainly on the passenger car business, and mainly in the fields I just mentioned, what we can offer and what we have, where we need the right partners, also locally, because it's also what the OEMs expect. I mean, I will close here, open a little bit in time, and there are any questions, of course, happy to answer. Back to you, Christian.
Thank you very much, Andreas. Interesting views. Some time is still left, so I would like to start into the Q&A. And Mr. Tendala, I would like to ask you, what is your view? What are the key learnings from Bharat Forge? Because Bharat Forge is one of the success stories of an Indian company which has gone global.
Key learnings in what form, Dr. Forge? In what area, if I may ask?
Yeah, if the other Indian companies now decide to go global, what would you advise them? What are the 3 most important points to keep in mind?
Okay. I think 2-3 points very important from our perspective. I think one is developing mutual trust is very, very important. It cannot be underestimated. I think it is also important that both sides have a complete alignment of strategy, in terms of current and future, because that often creates a lot of challenges. I would also say that fiscal prudence is extremely important, particularly because the concepts of capex in India and the concepts of capex in Germany are not exactly the same, as we found out in the last 15 years in terms of what we should do. And particularly in our industry, which is very capital intensive, this makes a huge impact. So I would say these 3 would be probably among the top comments that I would say one needs to look out for.
Thank you very much. May I ask Andreas, which products and technologies do you believe there is a need and interest from Indian market in terms of collaboration with European companies?
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm a year at ZF, but I can definitely tell you when we talk about our technologies, we are going into this market. I take one example. Of course, I think Bosch developed in India the first ABS system there with also with partners and brought it in. We are now at the point where we are talking about very intelligent brake system, integrated brake controls, putting together a lot of functions into one system with one software and with the ECU and all this stuff together. So really, I mean, this is something where we will expand, where we will go there. As I said, it is a prerequisite for autonomous and electric driving cars, and we will go on this journey. And here, I think it was mentioned before in one of the speeches, electromechanics, electronics in this area, this is really something where we would like to say, okay, please, here we need to invest, here we need to work with the partners locally. Makes no sense to ship this around the globe, and I'm quite sure there are capabilities in the market.
Great, thank you very much. Mrs. Ayer, I would like to ask you directly after Andreas. Is that what Andreas just said? Within your view, which products, groups, technologies is an opportunity for Indian suppliers to partnership with German companies, or would you add something?
Yeah, I would pretty much align with what Andreas just said. And like I said, we are working with the Indian small and medium industry in a very big way to upgrade their capabilities and also to bring in, proprietary technologies. Because one thing I would really like to say again here is that in order to be a very smart and agile global company, we need to have proprietary technologies, and that is something that the Indian industry is working on. The journey is very long, and in that context, they need to start looking at R&D as an investment and not a cost. And the minute you do that with at least a medium-term perspective, then I think with all the other advantages that Indian companies come in, suddenly it's going to be a paradigm shift in the way they can proposition themselves on the global stage. And I think this is where we are working with the Indian companies to do this mindset change and work with, Mr. Tandle also said, work with global partners with trust and technology capabilities. So whether you're working in Industry 4.0 or any other field, these are the prerequisites that Indian companies will have to take into consideration.
Thank you very much. Thank you. May I ask Mr. Kulkarni, what do you think are the strengths and the challenges of partnering with India from your broad experience with Skoda?
Okay, firstly, let me tell you, the strengths of the Indian supplier are, they are more flexible in terms of when it comes to the operation capacity and the volumes. Indian suppliers are quite flexible to work. They are very easy to get adopted, whatever things are required. Then, of course, they were definitely competitive in terms of the pricing, whether you take the piece price or the tooling, there is definitely an edge as compared to Europe, what we have in India. And then definitely it is ease in of doing business with Indian suppliers, but they are good for the second source. I will come to this point when I talk about the challenges. And then, as I explained in my talk at the beginning itself, there's a big improvement in suppliers when we see 10 years back and now. Now they understand clearly the expectations from the global OEMs or even the global tier 1 suppliers if they are importing from any parts from India. Then definitely, as Ms. Iyer said, that's a very good point, that R&D investments or the cost should be looked at as investment and not as a cost. And nowadays I'm seeing a lot of technical centers coming up here in India. That is OEMs as well as the tier 1 big suppliers are putting their technical centers in India. These are the strengths in terms of the Indian suppliers. Now coming to some of the challenges, as being in Skoda Volkswagen and being in India and working with both. Before that I worked also with the Toyota for 10 years, and now it's very important that independent project execution. That is a challenge, or where Indian suppliers need to really look to improve. That they definitely always need a hand holding, and there should be always a close monitor. And this is not including me being an Indian. We have been little bit coming out with our cultural thoughts, maybe a Hindi word called as a chalta hai chalne do, which means okay, let's go on. No, it doesn't. We have to stop and we have to act. And it's also important for our Indian suppliers to look at the first time right. There is a big challenge. First time getting the things right is a challenge, and definitely a consistent quality and reliability. That's where now the Indian supplier has to develop. And that is not also a big problem with the suppliers. There are some problems with the OEMs, including when I'm saying problems, means they have different challenges, because unlike in Europe you have one set of specifications, one set of quality standards. But unfortunately in India, we have a different OEMs. We have American, we have European, we have Japanese, and on top of that we have Indian. The expectation from all the OEMs are not same. Because of that, suppliers keep changing his way, his processes, what he does. And now with the VDA 6.3, what is coming, it is trying to align and bring the suppliers to the required quality. There it should look. And most important is the attracting and retaining the good human talent. That's where always we face. There are some good people who are really doing good job, But again, it's a matter of time, how many days they are working with that organization, maybe 2 years, 3 years, after that they are with some other organization. That's where the Indian suppliers look at a big challenge. And important is now what is happening when it is ACMA, during in my previous meetings also I have made a request that now the tier 1 is ready. They are know everything, but we need to develop the tier 2 and tier 3 suppliers in India, because the complete supply chain is very important in terms of deriving any product. So that's my view in terms of strengths and the challenges. And definitely a commitment is very important. If we are committed to something, we have to adhere to that. Unfortunately, sometimes now our people do aggressive commitment and they really immediately don't say no to anything. We have to also try to learn how to say no with a proper logical justification rather than saying everything yes and then failing in the commitments. That's where we have to look. That's the point from my side, Dr. Foltz. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. May I ask the last question to Peter? Peter, you compared Auto to the Swedish telco companies, where many players left the space. So what would you recommend to both Indian and European suppliers to prevent from the same fatigue that the telco industry in Sweden has seen?
Our experience is the first step is to be aware of the change and try to be part of it, and don't see it as a problem. And yeah, if you're sitting down and do nothing at this time in the automotive industry, you will definitely lose. So very important to look into the new business cases, business models offered by data, AI, digitalization, and that is really, really important because if you compare to telecom, Nokia was one of the biggest at that time, and it totally disappeared from the market. And we will see that as well in automotive industry, in combination with new players coming in from China and US. Even in Europe, we have a lot of new players coming in. And the volumes will probably go down when it comes to passenger vehicles, because we need to use our cars much more and much better due to CO2 requirements and so on. So first step, to be aware of the change and then be part of the change, and then we can all survive the change. That is a really important message.
Thanks so much, Peter. Well, thank you very much for your speeches and our discussion. May I summarize what I've heard and put together a few bullet points? What are the important things? Well, what we learned is there are a lot of opportunities of European and Indian partnerships and collaborations. So the space is there. What are the most important points for that? I think what we heard is first, take a wise choice in which products and components you want to invest. Align this with the trends like electrification, like electromechanical components, like software and connectivity. Second point, and this is quite an important one, is what we heard before, is to establish trust between the parties. It's all about having trust, and this is not rising between companies. Trust is something between people. Of course, the pandemic makes it more difficult to meet in person, and video is some kind of measure to be in contact, to see each other, to talk with each other, but it's not the same. So that takes time, and this is important. And last but not least, what we heard is, and I think the third point is, and that you are financially clear with your situation and that you're in a quite stable situation before you jump into endeavors outside of India. That would be from my side. Thank you very much for listening and contributing, and have a good day.
Good evening.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Good evening. I'm delighted to extend a vote of thanks to all our dignitaries, audience, and participants who have joined us for the Europe Day. A special thanks to Dr. Forge from your perspective for sharing your perspective and for moderating the panel and keeping the discussion lively and interactive and informative. Thank you, Dr. Forge. Mr. Kulkarni, it's always indeed a pleasure to have you with us and sharing your perspective, especially from SIAM, and how Indian suppliers are perceived in the global supply chain, their strengths and challenges of partnering with India. You and the Volkswagen Group have always been a strong supporter of localization and taking Indian suppliers into the global supply chain. Thank you for your support in upgrading the Indian supplier base. And thank you once again for highlighting all the opportunities for collaborations in the area of new technologies. Thank you, Mr. Tanle, for sharing your success story. Bharat Forge has certainly been a great story to keep the Indian flag flying high in the global arena. You have been a forefront of carrying forward the brand and capabilities of the Indian suppliers to be able to deliver at global standards. Fraunhofer's perspective by Mrs. Iyer was quite informative on a number of technologies that there is an opportunity for Indian suppliers to think for partnership. As you rightly mentioned, the Indian offers an alternative to other Southeast Asian countries as part of the global supply chain. Your point about testing centers, collaboration, and building proprietary technology and investing in R&D are valuable. Thank you, Mrs. Iyer, for joining us today. Indeed, our pleasure in having with us from FKG and FIEV, Mr. Peter Bryanston and Mr. Dela Schuppe Konda, for sharing their country perspectives from Sweden and France, respectively. The shifting of priorities towards sustainability is an important direction for the auto industry. Your focus on competitiveness of the supply chain is important, and India's capability in that area is an important one. Cooperation in the area of startups in the area of e-mobility is encouraging. Thank you, Mr. Bryanston and Mr. Diedler. Mr. Sixx, thank you for sharing the startup perspective and sharing information on recent collaborations and challenges that were faced. It is indeed a great platform for building relationships on both sides and tapping the innovations from Indian youngsters. Mr. Mulander, thank you for taking out the time to be with us today. Thank you for sharing ZF's perspective and experiences and opportunities to partner with Indian companies in new technologies and opportunities for joint ventures. We'd like to thank our supporting partners from VDA, SMMT, FIEV, FKG, Indian Embassy, Ministry of Heavy Industries, and Ministry of Commerce as well. Lastly, I would like to compliment once again the team at ACMA for conceptualizing and organizing this virtual expo. The ACMA Secretariat has worked tirelessly for the last few months, and the results are for us all to see. With the end of this Europe Day, I would once again request the international partners and companies to visit and engage with the exhibiting companies over the next few days. Have a wonderful afternoon, have a wonderful evening. All the very, very best. Thank you very much.